Welcome to Surrender School.
Welcome all. Mission statement at Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We're not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. If this has helped you in any way, if this step study has helped you, or any other material that you found on YouTube, or however you've come across the content from Surrender School, if it's helped your recovery, donate. You can find the donate button at the bottom of the website's front page. And if you'd actually like to help out at Surrender School with anything that you're passionate about, there's a lot of opportunities to help out in a lot of different ways. It is a huge task to make sure these things keep running. So there'll be something that you can help out with that you're passionate about. You can contact Lori on WhatsApp, or you can text her, or I leave my number at the very end so you can email me or text me, and then I'll forward it to the right people. I'm not the right person, but I'll forward it to that. And then if you're texty or you like that kind of support and that really, like sometimes minute to minute or, hour to hour support, you can join the Surrender School WhatsApp group. And this is the QR code, and you just place your phone up to the QR code in the camera, and there'll be this like little kind of rectangular oval. Somebody else may know what that is, and you just click into it, and that actually takes you at where you can get into this. And the QR code did work last time I checked. So the agenda for this is we are actually on step 8 today, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 4 more weeks. Great job for everybody who's hung out for 8 weeks. We've got prayers. We're going to be reading and my experience with the steps. Today, we're going to be actually doing some reading in the 12 and 12, and this is the purple OA book. There's several editions, and all of them work. As a matter of fact, there's like some richness in each one. Some of the older edition seems to be longer, and there's a lot of richness in that. The 12 and 12 AA, 12 and 12, and then also the big book. And in the big book today, we are going to be on steps 8 and 9, which is going to be on page 76. We will write for 5 minutes, and there's shares till 1 p.m. and we'll end at 1 o'clock. So we'll get started with the set aside prayer. And I love this prayer, and there's so much richness in this prayer to help me remember that I don't know really anything, and I certainly don't know your truth. But whenever I seek things like this, what I want is to find my own truth on that. So, God, today, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth. And it's funny because Mary and I were talking prior to this, and I was about to just like rhetorically, that's probably not a word, but I was about to just spout off something. And I was like, is that the truth, Amber? Amber, is that really the case? And I like that. So, in the truth is, I want a new experience. I want a new experience. And so I sometimes have to give up the old truth to get a new experience. And in the serenity prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And yeah, welcome. Welcome to everybody. And we're gonna be on step 8 today. So I'm gonna read the step 8 right out of we're gonna get started with the 12 and 12, and this is in OA, and I just feel like there's some rich reading in step 8. So, step 8 is made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This spiritual principle is self discipline. If anybody's like me, just that word self discipline just crawls up my spine, the word discipline in general. So, in our days of out of control eating and food behaviors, most of us were so obsessed with food, we had little time to develop or nurture effective relationships with other people. When we were eating compulsively, we may not have fully realized how we isolated ourselves. We may have felt that once the food problem was solved, everything in our lives would be satisfactory. When we did stop eating compulsively, however, we usually found our defective ways of dealing with others were a source of pain for us. In many cases, this pain was so great we were tempted to eat again rather than face it. What's the use of a so, when we did stop eating compulsively, however, we usually found that our defective ways of dealing with others were a source of pain for us. In many cases, this pain was so great we were tempted to eat again rather than face it. What's the use of abstaining if I'm just going to hurt? We asked. If this is recovery, I don't want it. Clearly, if we were going to remain abstinent and find serenity, we had to learn better ways of dealing with other people, ways that would bring us joy instead of pain. Step 8 is designed to help us with this process. In step 8, we look at our relationships for the purpose of discovering these patterns that have done harm to us and others. Here, we meet guilt head on and get rid of it. We learn about the healing power of forgiveness as we discover how to forgive ourselves and others. Most important, we begin to become willing to make amends. That is change, to make changes in the way we deal with the people who share our lives. And I'm going to try, I just tried to do this and I was able to do it once, but don't trust that I'm going to be able to do this. Oh, you know what? Okay. And this is a little TikTok that someone sent me. Okay. And I'm going to share the sound and optimize for video. And the reason that I found this helpful is because it talks about addiction, right? And why, tell me if y'all can hear this.
About addiction is
Can y'all hear?
you get a rat and you put it in a cage and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost always kill itself quite quickly. In the 70s, Professor Alexander comes along and he looks at this experiment and he noticed something. He said, we're putting the rat in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's try something a bit different. So Professor Alexander built a cage that he called Rat Park. They've got loads of cheese, they've got loads of coloured balls, they've got loads of tunnels. Crucially, they've got loads of friends. But here's the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drug water. You go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated to 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. What if addiction isn't about your chemical hooks? What if addiction is about your cage? What if addiction is an adaptation to your environment? Maybe we shouldn't even call it addiction. Maybe we should call it bonding. Human beings have a natural and innate need to bond. And when we're happy and healthy, we'll bond and connect with each other. But if you can't do that because you're traumatized or isolated or beaten down by life, you will bond with something that will give you some sense of relief. Now, that might be gambling, that might be pornography, that might be cocaine, that might be cannabis, but you will bond and connect with something because that's our nature. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Anyway, I loved that. A friend in recovery sent that to me. And innately, you do kind of know that. I have heard so many times people say, "Oh, my best friend was food." You know why? Because the best the food doesn't talk back to you. Oh my goodness. If y'all came to my study last week, the food, I had this situation last week where I went to a garden with a friend of mine and we got disconnected. It wasn't that she left me, it wasn't that I left her. We just accidentally got disconnected and we got separated at this park. I couldn't find her and she couldn't find me. You know what's never left me? Like a thing of French fries has never gotten up at a garden park and left me. It has always been there for me. So, I love how it says we begin to become willing to make amends. That is to make changes in the way that we deal with people who share our lives. Every year I've decided for like the past 8 years to really focus in on something, to really wrestle and take a magnifying glass to something. I think the first year it was just love, and then it's been faith or God, or it's every year I will find, and then for some reason life just gives me a really nice way to work on that thing. One year it was money, and I think I was the brokest I've ever been in my life the year that I was deciding to focus really on my financial life, and it was just a disaster. And so this year, my focus since 2025 January has been relationships. And this is the reason why, because I struggle with relationships. I struggle to show up for the people that I love in my life the way I want to. I struggle with that. And so I have a lot of behaviors that I do, and I like that that's why we become willing to make amends and to make changes. I'm going to give a quite interesting example of myself, right? So, years and years ago, we had some friends, and it was like a husband and wife couple, and I was friends with the wife, and he was friends with the husband, and we went out. And we went out one time on a Saturday, and the second week she said, "Well, let's go out again the next Saturday." And after we were on our way home, I'm an introvert, as I've said so many times before, and I need a lot of downtime, and I need time to process. I need time to kind of deal with my own solar system going on in here. And the second week I looked at her and I said, I'm just going to tell you, don't ask me the third week. Don't even ask me." And this was before recovery. This was before I was working on my relationships, and it really hurt her feelings. It really hurt her feelings. She was like, "Well, I thought we were having a really fun time, and I thought that we could go out on Saturday nights, and lots of couples just do Saturday nights together. And that's offensive the way you said that. It hurt my feelings." And so fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, or a month or so ago, and I met someone in my OA program face to face. And she said, "Do you want to go out, and do you want to go geocaching catching or catching? I don't know what it is." And we went out and we looked for rocks, and I had a lot of fun. And I just told her, I said, I'm one of those people that I like to do something like maybe once a month with someone. I like to kind of decompress, and I like to, so like, is that okay with you? And she said, "Actually, that's not very nice to tell someone that. Whenever you're really doing something with someone, that's really not nice to say, oh, and by the way, like, I'm already going to have these boundaries." And I thought about it, and I just asked, I said, "Okay." And I got this from Marianne Williamson. In her book, she talked about how, like, she showed up for relationships the same way, and she was getting hurt. It's not that it was good or bad the way she showed up. It was just that it continually caused her problems. Y'all might not have this problem. Y'all might like to hang out with each other 24/7 and like to, like, that may not be your issue. So she said what she did is she asked the person, "Okay, can we start over? Let's do a rewind. How could I have said that better? What could I have done better?" And so I did that. I said, "Okay, I continue to show up and hurt people in the fact that I still want to go running back to my cave, and I want to hide a little bit after interactions with people. That's, and Zoom makes it really easy, right? Because I have an hour, and you notice on my intro, right? We're done at 1. You notice that, like, that's okay. And by the way, like, I'm not gonna be here till 2. And so, like, how can I show up better? And she said, yeah, she said, "Just so you know, people want to love you. And just so you know, people want to be with you in person." she's like, so I want you to know that that's a real privilege to be somebody that people want to say, oh, by the way, could we also do something next Saturday? And she's like, so I really am like praying about that. I mean, I've had to make a lot of amends to people by hurting their feelings, because I need a lot of, time to kind of decompose in between times with people. And I will tell the story of my husband. When we got married, I worked at a trauma hospital for 10 years, and it was actually a level 2 trauma hospital. And it was one of those where my name was being called, so many times a day. And I got home. What did I do? I went in my bedroom, I closed the door, and there was the Oreos. And I told my husband, I do not want to talk to you. I do not want to look at you for an hour. Do not come in. And it was our bedroom. It wasn't even it was our bedroom. And I was like, you do not get to come in this room. And I sat in my bed and I ate Oreos just to decompress from all of that. So I hope that y'all have a better story about yourselves that's not, but I hope that that touches you in a way that you understand. Like, we're showing up sometimes in ways that we then have problems, and we say, well, I want to have good connections with people. I don't want to hurt them. How do we do that? So I'm going to keep reading. It's our time. So we're on page 58 in the 12 and 12 of OA. If anybody just jumped on, and sorry for the people that I hung up on. I'm sorry. Step 8 is a two-part process. The first part is to write a list of all persons we have harmed. In deciding whom to include on the list, we may have some trouble in determining what actually is harmful to others. Like that situation. How do I know that just being direct and saying, listen, if I go out once with you, I don't want to see you for another month. How do I know that that's harmful? Because that sounds great to me. If you tell me that, I'm like, sweet, I'll see you next month. Love you. Oddly enough, the question of how to identify harm rarely arises when we're remembering the harms done to us. We know very well what actions by others have caused us harm. Perhaps to help us answer the question of what is harm, we might think about some of the ways that we've been hurt and ask ourselves, have I ever dealt with another person in a similar way? When we answer this question honestly, we may be surprised to learn that we ourselves have given others the same sort of treatment that hurt us the most when we were on the receiving end. The written moral inventory we did in step 4 can help us to make a list of those we have harmed. As we work step 8, we look back over what we wrote on our 4 step, and we draw from that inventory a list of names, adding to this list any others we've harmed. If we've lost or destroyed our 4 step inventory, the question in the step 4 chapter of this book can be used in making our 8th step list. We go over these questions carefully, paying close attention to those that deal with ways in which our character defects have affected other people. So, how has my fear affected my relationships with others? How is me being afraid affected people? Many of us have found that our own name belongs somewhere near the top of our 8 step list. And I always think it's really beautiful, and so like we get this opportunity to come to recovery sometimes on a very wide lens, and seeing how that some programs will say, no, you do not get to make you do not get to make an amends to yourself. You have trampled on others. And yet, I really feel like the reason that I hurt others is, the saying that hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. And when I'm hurt, I start hurting people. So, what's the alchemy of that? It is to heal my own hurt. And I do that a lot of times in relation to other people, but that healing my own hurt, um, I know that this is like such an old analogy, but if you have no water to give, I can't offer you water. If I'm sitting there with no water, I can't offer it to you. But if I have filled my own glass and I have I'm fully hydrated, then of course, if you need it, here we go. Here I am showing up. I am love. I am acceptance. I am ready to give. And so that's where I really do feel like we do need to do that inner work. That we do have to have ourselves up there. And that's just so that we can get healed, so we can show up as light, right? That's what all the masters did. They were light to the world. If I am, if I haven't done my own inventory, or if I haven't gone to a trusted counselor or a trusted therapist or a trusted friend or a trusted sponsor or a trusted mentor to get some of this stuff out, listen, yeah, I'm not a great person. So I'm going to keep reading. Yes, we've harmed others, but we have also damaged ourselves with our self-destructive thinking, eating, and living habits. We've learned that a complete willingness to make amends to ourselves and to forgive others for our past mistakes has been essential to our recovery. We need to include the names of all those we can remember having harmed, even the ones who hurt us first. It doesn't matter how badly some of these people may have treated us. We now look with complete honesty at our side of each relationship. If we did those individuals any harm at all, we need to list them and the harm we did. It might help us to remember that our purpose in doing step 8 is not to judge others, but to learn attitudes of mercy and forgiveness. Like to learn how to have an attitude of mercy and forgiveness. I have had the pleasure of listening to a lot of people that decide to give their exes, this 9th step, right? And like, yeah, like, and it's their ex and they've had a lot of kids together and there's like drama on all ends, and instead it just becomes like a turnaround. And um one of my favorite, and I did not ask her if I can tell this story, but I won't say a name. And one of my favorite step 9 is of a friend of mine. And she says that she went to her mother and, she had talked to people about it. She had done all the right. And her mother had been a source of relationship issues with her. And she had done all the work and she knew that it was time to go to this person that was just causing a lot of pain in her life. And she took it to her mom and she laid it out, and she did her entire speech. This is all my fault. And her mother said, "Yeah, it is. It is all you. You are the problem. You have always been the problem. You're a this." And then what was she? She was triggered all over again, now in worse ways that she started. I mean, it was worse. And so I have heard a lot of, I've made amends to people who have one, and I know we're not on step 9 yet, but when I got into program, I worked with a guy and I was a selfish bitch. I was a selfish bitch. And that he was the first person that came up, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I have got to say sorry." And I hadn't talked to him in a long time, but I texted him and I said, "Listen, I am in a, I didn't say what I was in. I just said I just wanted to just say sorry. Like, yeah, I'm getting older and it's not okay." And that man was in program. And I had wondered, like when I started doing a program, I wondered, was he in program? And he sent me one text and it was very short, and it was just so much grace. Oh, like, good for you for working on yourself. Good for you for trying to contact people, and good for, I mean, like, it was seriously, that man had done that himself at one point, and he was only grace. And had other people that have not been. But we get to learn that attitude. I got to learn with him that he was incredibly merciful, because if you have ever done this work yourself, you are you have to be. You know that you don't this is the last block on the house. You have tried everything else to get either sobriety or to get mental clarity. So, um, then I'm gonna read from the big book. This is just great. Page 77, and then I'm gonna stop so that into action. I love this. So this is, of course, steps 8 and 9 are kind of lumped together. I love the big book. Love it, love it, love it. Page 77. Um, very top of the page, which is not another, well, I guess we'll start with 76. Probably there are still some misgivings. Very last paragraph, page 76. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we've hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we're trying to put our lives in order, but this isn't an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It's seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we've gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. But our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He's going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. And, this right here is just preparatory work in step 8. It really isn't, we haven't really gotten to the real, this says just make a list of people that we have harmed. And if it's somebody like a marriage mate, I think I have made more step 8s to that man. And I've finally decided the best thing I can do is to shut my mouth, and to just be nice, to be nice and shut this trap. That is my best. That is my best. That is my best step 8. So anyway, okay, so I have a question, and this is a fun one. I had fun with this question. I cannot wait to hear y'all's or anything that you'll have on step 8. But I'm going to share this. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them. Okay, so how do I feel about my relationships with the people around me? And how might working step 8 again, which is making a list of a bunch of other people that we might want to make amends to, help me relate better to myself and others? So remember, I'm going to read this again in page 78, that we are doing this so as to, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and to the people about it. And that just gives me like chills. I love that because that's what I want to be in this world. I want to be like, my character defects stop me from being that, but that's what I want to be in this world. All right, so do your writing, and I'm gonna stop for 5 minutes. No. I'm gonna just mute for 5 minutes.
Thanks for recovering with us.